Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be talking about how Carvana just purchased Adesa and what this means for the car industry. Now, before I get into the video, just a quick disclaimer. You guys might hear some sounds in the background. My neighbor is getting their house built, and so we just got to deal with it. So sorry about that in terms of the sound quality. But with that being said, let's get into this purchase. Yes, Carvana did in fact purchase Adesa. Now you guys are probably wondering what Adesa is. Adesa is an auto auction. Now this is a huge move. So first off, let's just get into the purchase price and all that stuff, and then we'll get into why this matters. So Carvana is purchasing Adesa for $2.2 billion, and then there's another $1 billion that's being included into this deal to basically upgrade a bunch of infrastructure and integrate everything so that Carvana and Adesa are like a single unit that work with each other. And so yeah, definitely a massive amount of money. Now you guys are probably wondering, why would Carvana even go and purchase Adesa, an auto auction site? First off, this is going to allow Carvana to recondition more vehicles. So Carvana is a car retailer, and what that means is they purchase used vehicles and then they put a little bit of money into reconditioning those used vehicles, and then they sell them to retail customers. Now, obviously, the more vehicles they can recondition, then the more vehicles that they can sell. And so that is the first benefit of them purchasing Adesa, right? They'll be able to recondition more vehicles. Right now, Carvana is able to recondition like just under like 1 million vehicles a year. And apparently this will allow them to jump up to like 3 million vehicles a year or something like that, which is a pretty big chunk of the used car market. The used car market does shift year to year, but typically there's anywhere from 35 million to like 45 million sales a year in terms of used cars. And so if they get up to 3 million, right, they're a pretty big chunk of the, just from one entity, a pretty big chunk of used car sales, which is pretty crazy. Now, the other benefits to this is they are going to have more people working for them. 4,500 employees from Adesa are moving over to Carvana. And what this will do is obviously allow them to, after integrating everything, allow them to basically just expand upon everything with their sales and all that. Now, obviously, Adesa is also a car auction. Like I mentioned, this is not just about reconditioning. And so this is transforming Carvana from being just a retailer to a retailer and a wholesaler, which is a huge distinction. Because again, as a retailer, you're just buying cars, reconditioning them, and then selling them to retail customers. Whereas as a wholesaler, that's a completely different market. You're buying cars, and sometimes you might recondition them and sell them to retail customers, or you might just sell them to retail customers because it's in good enough condition, right? Maybe it's a low mileage, brand new vehicle, and it's something that doesn't need any work, so you can just flip it and sell it. Kind of, the wholesale side of things. But a big part of wholesale is also selling to dealerships. And so this is something that Carvana doesn't do right now because they're just a retailer. And so with them owning Adesa, this means that dealerships, when they purchase from this auction, will technically be purchasing from Carvana, which is causing a lot of controversy because dealerships do not like Carvana whatsoever. Carvana has already shaken things up. I can't talk today. Anyways, Carvana's changed things in the car industry, right? A massive amount, right? Because it's buying a car completely online and also trading your car completely online, and it's just streamlined the process, and it's a huge shift from what dealerships normally do with their car buying experience. And so dealerships don't like Carvana, and so there is a chance that dealerships might just stop using Adesa as an auction to buy cars from, which would obviously have a negative impact on it. The other big auction is Manheim, and that's actually what most people use is Manheim. And so this might actually grow Manheim's market share and shrink Adesa's if dealerships just don't buy from them out of spite, basically. So there is that potential, but we'll have to see what happens. I think there'll be some dealerships that will like just truly do that because they're just so spiteful. But I think for the most part, dealerships will just use Adesa like normal because they'll say, hey, you have a car at auction that I need on my dealership lot, so I'm going to go, like, they're not going to, you know what I mean? They're not going to give up car deals for this, I don't think. So I don't think it'll change things as much as what people think it could possibly change. But again, it does change Carvana as a company a massive amount once everything is fully integrated, because again, they're going into the wholesale market, which is just a completely different market. Now, you guys heard me talk earlier about that $1 billion that they're also including as part of this deal. Now, that $1 billion is going to go towards upgrading a bunch of infrastructure, so basically building out new sites for reconditioning, integrating everything, and so this is a massive spend for Carvana, and this is where the difficulties arise, or I guess the potential future issues arise. Carvana already is under a lot of fire from its investors because they spend so much money. They make a lot of money, but they spend so much money. And Carvana, this in 2021 was like the first time it was ever profitable. Before that, Carvana was hemorrhaging money every single year. And obviously, this big deal is a large expense, and so it's increasing Carvana's costs even more. Now, there is obviously an upside to it because, again, more reconditioned vehicles mean more vehicle sales, which means more revenue. But there is potential risk. And the big part of this potential risk is the fact that this isn't a cash deal. This is a loan. So Carvana is getting a loan from JP Morgan and Chase and Citibank. So they're basically getting a $3.3 billion loan, $2.2 billion to buy Adesa, and then another $1.1 billion for upgrades. Okay, that's a massive loan. And here's where things get a little bit dicey, and this is where I'm going to kind of put my personal opinion into today's video. So Carvana, again, already has massive expenses because they're constantly building those like car vending machines, and they've got employees to pay, and they're buying cars all the time. There's reconditioning expenses, and there's just so many expenses that are associated with buying and selling cars. Now, on top of that, they have these loans that are coming in that they're gonna have to pay for. And right now in the current car market, they can more than afford it because they are finally profitable for the first time ever. They'll be selling more cars, and they'll be able to pay for things. But the downside is if there is any sort of economic downturn, this could completely wipe out Carvana, right? If they go back to being a business that is not profitable and we're in an economic downturn, then and they have all these loans and debts to pay, right? That is an equation for, a business completely disappearing, because if they have all this debt that they have to pay that they can't pay because they're not making enough money, then they're ultimately just going to go out of business. So that is one downside I can see with this whole transaction, is the fact that it's not a cash deal. It is a massive loan, right? So yeah, it's up in the air, to be completely honest. So I see one of two outcomes, and I kind of already talked about the one outcome. So one outcome is, obviously the car market continues to be what it's like, which is crazy, where there's massive amounts of profit, and Carvana is able to make this work. And we just have this kind of steady taper down to where there isn't as much markup, but it's steady enough that Carvana is able to, slightly change things to where they're able to still be profitable because they're selling enough cars to make it so that they are profitable. That is, in my opinion, that's the best case scenario, because this market is not going to be as high as it is forever. So that's the best case scenario, is the market slowly tapers down, Carvana can adjust, and they can stay profitable, and they can stay in business. But obviously on the other side, that's doom and gloom, is we have some sort of, because there's so much uncertainty in the world right now, just go watch the news, we have some sort of economic downturn that is just, pretty much instant, right, from a financial standpoint, where it happens in a matter of months, or maybe in, just less than a year. And then car values just decline a massive amount. And what that would do is that would leave retailers like Carvana that have massive inventories to be upside down in their inventory, where they own the vehicles for more than what they're worth in the market, and so they're having to sell vehicles at losses, and they're hemorrhaging a massive amount of money, and then they have this massive loan that they have to pay off, and then they end up going out of business. So that's the doom and gloom side of things. I don't want this video to be too much longer, but I want you guys to let me know what you think about Carvana purchasing this car auction, and if you think that it was a good play or if it was a bad play, and all that kind of stuff. And then, what scenario you think is more likely, like the doom and gloom scenario or the, best case scenario. But with that being said, I'll see all of you in that next video.